Hey, welcome back to the People's Podcast. Here we explore the complex challenges and the triumphs of our modern world. I am your host, Neo, again, and today we are continuing our deep dive into the lives of anxious generation. This is a book I'm reading and it's inspiring me to create this episode. So the generation I'm talking about, these are children and adolescents that are growing up in a world, that is vastly different from the one we knew. And again, this is part 3 of a series. And if you've missed the previous episode, I highly recommend you go back and listen to those first. They provide essential context for today's discussion. I'm super excited for this one. It's going to be short and you're going to like it because it's going to prepare us for part 4. So how do I begin? The overlap between childhood and adolescence is very intentional. Kids who are 10 to 12 years old, they are in this between stage that often called, twins, yeah. And for a reason, this is done for a reason. So this is a period one, it's known as early adolescent, and it is marked by unique blend of playfulness and the beginning of social and psychological complexities that define adolescence. And if you remember well, before the age of smartphones, many kids and teens, they were perfectly content staying indoors. And then later, in a few decades back, playing online emerged. And in this emerging of this new era, they lost out on the challenging physical and social experiences that all young mammals need, and so including humans. Because one, we need to develop basic competencies. We need to overcome childhood fears. We need to be more self-reliant. And even though virtual interactions with peers, they were very convenient, they don't fully make up for these lost experiences. It's very critical. So, those whose playtime and social life they moved online, they found themselves in a different kind of space. It's like an adult space. A lot of kids, they are consuming a lot of adult content and interacting with adults in ways that can be harmful, especially to minors. And if parents worked really hard to eliminate the risks and, restrict freedoms in real world, they often underestimated the impact of these online shifts. And this led to what we now see. We might even be part of this generation. But I want to take a moment to clarify some words I'm using here. So when I mention the real world, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the relationships and social interactions. And I find 4 different characteristics to characterize this type of world I'm talking about. And think about it, you will find it to be true. 1, they are embodied, meaning that, our bodies are actively involved in this type of communication. We are aware of our own bodies and those of others, and we respond to the physical cues, both consciously and unconsciously. That is 1. 2, they are synchronous. They happen in real time. With subtle cues about timing and turn taking, yeah. And then 3rd, they are typically, they involve one-to-one or one-to-several communications with the focus on single moment in time. And then finally, as the 4th one, they occur within communities that have high bar of entry and exit. And this means that people are highly motivated, to invest in their relationships. And they walk through conflicts when they arise. So that is the real world. And now when I talk about a virtual world, what am I referring to? I'm referring to these interactions that have become common in only the last few decades. And I also find these 4 characteristics for them. 1, unlike the real world, these interactions are disembodied. You don't need physical presence, just language. So your communication partner could even be an artificial intelligence. So that is the first one. And second, they are heavily asynchronous. think about text-based posts and comments. These don't happen in real time. You do it after something is done. And of course, when video calls are different, since they are synchronous, but we'll talk about it later. And then the third one, before I forget, is virtual communities often have low bar of entry and exit. We know this. You can block someone or leave a group whenever you want, which makes these communities more transient and relationships more disposable. And then lastly, while these distinctions, they might be clear, there are some things you might not agree with me between the virtual world and real world. For example, my family is very much rooted in real world. But if you think of two scientists in the 18th century, they only knew each other through letters. And you might say, wasn't that more like a virtual relationship? That would be arguably right. But the key factor in both real and virtual world, I find to be the level of commitment that is required to sustain a relationship. And when people grow up in communities that they can't easily escape, one, they learn to manage relationships, and in turn, they learn to manage themselves. There are some online communities, believe me, that foster very strong interpersonal commitment and a sense of belonging. But generally speaking, when children are raised in ever-changing networks where they don't need to engage deeply, something crucial is lost. So this would be the closing of today, and these words will come back a lot in the next coming series. And this, of course, brings us to an end of part 3 in our series. And I hope this episode has given you some insight into the complex dynamics of growing up in digital age. And so, as always, I would love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Share, comment. And again, thanks for joining in. I want you to stay tuned on this one, because part 4, I'm going to explore on how we can help guide this generation towards a more balanced and a healthy future. So until next time, take care and stay connected in real world.